What is up, guys? It's me again. Today I bring you another banger video. Gonna bring you a Japanese urban legend. That's right, we're gonna dive into Japan. You know, because it's Japan. Japan is the most creepiest thing in the whole wide world. So this is a story about an urban. Well, it is an urban legend, scary story, but I'm gonna put scary story in the title. A story called 8 Feet Tall, or Hachishakusama. I'm sorry, I'm not, like, I can't do it. It is a Japanese urban legend about a tall woman who abducts children. She's 8 feet. Thank God I'm a teenager. I'm an adult now. Haha, fuck you. She's 8 feet tall. I wish I was 8 feet tall. That would be amazing. You know, all the ladies would be like, "Oh my God, he's so tall. He's like a skyscraper." I'll put the image of what she kind of looks like on the screen, and yeah. She wears a long white dress and makes it sound like po 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 po. For some reason, I think this is like the Kung Fu Panda. For some reason. Alright, this is the story! My grandparents lived in Japan. Every summer my parents would take me there on a holiday to visit them. They lived in a small village and they had a big backyard. I loved to play there during the summer. When we arrived, my grandparents always welcomed me with open arms as I was their only grandchild, so they spoiled me. The last time I saw them was the summer when I was 8 years old. God damn. God damn. As usual, my parents booked a flight to Japan and we drove from the airport to my grandparents' house. They were delighted to see me and had a lot of little presents to give me. If I go to my grandparents' house, all I get is nothing. Parents wanted to have some time by themselves, so after a few days they took a trip to another part of Japan, leaving me in the care of my grandma and grandpa. One day, I was playing out in the backyard. My grandparents were inside the house. It was a hot summer's day, and I laid on the grass to rest. You should take off your shirt and see if it's hot. You know, show off your abs to the other ladies out there. I stared up at the clouds and enjoyed the feeling of the soft rays of the sun and gentle breeze. Just as I was about to get up, what was I talking about just now? That was very weird. Very, very weird. I heard a strange sound. Po, 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 po. I didn't know what it was, and it was hard to figure out where it was coming from. Boy, you are in the backyard. What, you cut off your ears or something? How did you not? It sounded like somebody was making the noise themselves. No shit, Sherlock. As if they were just saying po 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 over and over again in a deep masculine voice. I was looking around, searching for the source of the noise, when I suddenly noticed something on the top of the tall hedges that enclosed the backyard. It was a straw hat. It wasn't resting on the hedge, it was behind it. That's where the sound was coming from. Po, 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 po. Then the hat began to move, as if someone was wearing it. The hat stopped at a small gap in the hedge as I could see a face peering through. It was a woman, but the hedges were high, almost 8 feet tall. I was surprised at how tall the woman was. I wondered if she was wearing stilts or some sort of huge high heel shoes, if there was that. Later she walked off and the strange noise disappeared with her, fading into the distance. I got up and wandered back into the house. My grandparents were in the kitchen drinking tea. Would you like some tea? I sat down at the table, and after a while I told my grandparents what I had seen. Really paying attention to me until I mentioned my distinctive abs. Damn! And then my grandparents were like, "Damn, my grandchild got abs." And then the guy was like, "Dang, yeah, man, I got abs. Screw you guys." Ha ha. Po 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 po. Back to the story. As soon as I said that, both of them suddenly froze. Grandma's eyes grew wide and she covered her mouth with her hand. Grandpa's face became very serious. And he grabbed me by the arm. Very important, he said in an intense voice. You must tell us exactly. How tall was she? As tall as the garden hedge, I replied, beginning to get scared. My grandfather bombarded me with questions. Where was she standing? When did this happen? What did you do? When did she see you? I tried to answer all these questions as best I could. He suddenly rushed out to the hallway and made a phone call. I couldn't hear what he was saying. I looked over at my grandma and she was trembling. Grandpa came barging back into the room and spoke to my grandmother. I've got to go out for a while, he said. You stay here with the child. Don't take your eyes off him for a second. What, so she can't blink? And then, what's going on, Grandpa? I cried while showing him my distinctive abs. He looked at me with a sad expression in his eyes and said, You've been liked by Hachishakusama. I can't pronounce it. I already pronounced it once. You've been liked by the 8 feet lady. I'm bad at Japanese. With that, he hurried out, got into his truck, and drove off. I turned to my grandmother and cautiously asked, Who is the 8 feet lady? Don't worry. Wait. Don't worry, she replied in a shaking voice. Grandpa will do something. Grandpa will do something. I can't do a good voice, I'm sorry. There's no need for you to worry. As we sat nervously in the kitchen waiting for my grandfather to come back, she explained what was happening. She told me there was a dangerous thing that was haunting the area, and nobody thought to do anything about it. That's just bullshit. That's just bullshit. Bullshit. Been waiting for my grandmother to come back. She explained what was happening. She told me there was a dangerous thing that was haunting the area. They called it the 8 feet lady because of its height. In Japanese, that thing means 8 feet tall, so I was right. Oh! It takes on the appearance of an extremely tall woman and it makes it sound like po, po, po in a deep male voice. I thought it was a lady. Defiantly. Depending on who sees it, some say it looks like a haggard old woman in a kimono, and others say it's a girl with a white funeral shawl with some distinctive abs. One thing that never changes is its height and the sound it makes. A long time ago, it was captured by monks and they managed to confine it in a ruined building on the outskirts of the village. They trapped it using 4 small religious statues called Jesus, and they placed at the north, south, east, and west of the ruins, and it wasn't supposed to be able to move from there. Somehow he managed to escape. You know, there's the cracks right there, and slipped through right the cracks. Last time it appeared was 15 years ago. My grandmother said that anyone who saw the 8 feet tall was destined to die within a few days. So crazy, I wasn't sure what to believe. When Grandpa came back, there was an old woman with him. She introduced herself as Kei-san and handed me a small crumpled piece of parchment, saying, Here, take this, and hold on. Then she and Grandpa went upstairs to do something. I was left alone in the kitchen with my grandmother again. She followed me to the bathroom and wouldn't let me shut the door. Why? 'Cause you want to look at my abs, Granny? You have Grandpa. Alright, stop looking at my abs. After a while, Grandpa and Kei-san took me upstairs and brought me into my bedroom. The rooms had been written on them. There were small bowls of salt in all 4 corners of the room, and a small Buddha named Salt Bay figure placed at the center of the room on top of a wooden box. There was also a bright blue bucket. What's the bucket for? I asked. That's for your pee and poo. Grandpa replied. Kei-san sat me down on the bed and said, Soon the sun will be setting, so listen carefully. You must stay in this room until tomorrow morning. You must not come out under any circumstances until 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Your grandmother and your grandfather will not speak to you or call you until then. Remember, do not leave the room for any reason until then. I will let your parents know what is going on. This is why you should not go on honeymoon when you have your first child. She spoke in such a grave tone that all I could do was quietly nod my head. You have to follow Kei-san's instructions to the letter, Grandpa told me, and never let go of the parchment she gave you, and if anything happens, pray to Buddha. and make sure you lock this door when we leave." They walked out into the hallway, and after saying goodbye to them, I closed the bedroom door and locked it. I turned on the TV and tried to watch, but I was so nervous I felt sick to my stomach. Grandma had left some snacks and rice balls in the window. Blood draining from my face and heart skipped a beat. I desperately tried to calm myself down, telling myself it's just the wind playing tricks, or maybe the branches of a tree. I turned up the volume on the TV to drown out the tapping noise. Eventually, that's when I heard Grandpa calling me. "Are you okay in there?" he asked. "If you're scared, you don't have to stay in there all alone. I can come in and keep you company." I smiled and rushed over to open the door, but then I stopped in my tracks. I had goosebumps all over my body. It sounded like Grandpa's voice, but somehow it was different. I couldn't tell what it was, but I just knew. "What are you doing?" Oh wait, sorry. This is Grandpa telling that. "What are you doing?" Grandpa asked. "You can open the door now." I glanced to my left and a chill went down my spine. The salt in the bowls were slowly turning black. I backed away from the door. My whole body was trembling with fear. I fell to my knees in front of the Buddha statue and clutched the piece of parchment tightly in my hand. I started desperately praying for help. "Please save me from 8 feet tall," I wailed. Then I heard voice outside the door saying, "Po, po, 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 po. Power." The tapping on the window started up again. I was overcome by fear and I crouched there in front of the statue, half crying and half praying for the rest. He's craying. Rest of the night. I felt like it would never end, but eventually it was morning. The salt in all 4 bowls was pitch black. Ugh. Should put 5th one. I checked my watch. It was 7:30 a.m. I cautiously opened the door. Grandma and Kei-san were standing outside waiting for me. When she saw my face, Grandma burst into tears. "I'm so glad you're still alive," she said. I went downstairs and was surprised to see my father and mother sitting in the kitchen. Grandpa came in and said, "Hurry up, we gotta get going." We went to the front door and there was a large black van waiting in the driveway. Several men from the village were standing around it, pointing at me and whispering, "That's the boy." The van was a 9-seater and they put me in the middle, surrounded by 8 men. Kei-san was in the driver's seat. The man on my left looked down at me and said, "You've got yourself in quite a spot of trouble. I know you're probably worried. Just keep your head down and your eyes shut. We can't see it, but you can. Don't open your eyes until we got you safely out of here." Grandpa drove in front and my dad's car was following behind. When everyone was ready, our little convoy started moving. We were going fairly slow, around 20 kilometers per hour, or maybe less. After a while, Kei-san said, "This is where it gets hard," and started muttering a prayer underneath her breath. That's when I heard the voice, "Po, po, 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 po." I clutched the parchment Kei-san had given me tightly in my hand. I kept my head down, but I peeked outside. I saw a white dress fluttering in the breeze. It was moving along with the van. It was 8 feet tall. She was outside the window, but she was keeping pace with us. Then suddenly she bent down. She wanted to look at, I'm not gonna say the A word, but she wanted to look at the kid's A word, and peered into the van. "No!" I gasped. The man beside me shouted, "Close your eyes, you little shit!" I immediately shut my eyes as hard as I could and tightened my grip on the piece of part. It became louder. Po, 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 po. There was tapping on the windows all around us. All of the men in the van were startled on the edge, muttering nervously to themselves. They couldn't see 8 feet tall and they couldn't hear her voice, but they could hear her tapping on the windows. Kei-san started playing louder and louder until she was almost shouting. The tension inside the van was unbearable. After a while, the tapping stopped and the voice disappeared. Kei-san looked back at us and said, "I think we're safe now." All of the men around me breathed a sigh of relief. The van pulled over to the side of the road and the men got up. They transferred me into my dad's car. My mother held me close and tears were running down her cheeks. Grandpa and my father bowed to the men and they went on their way. Kei-san came to the window and asked me to show her the piece of parchment that she had given me. When I opened my hand, I saw that it had gone completely black. "I think you'll be okay now," she said. "But just be sure, holding on to this for a while." She handed me a new piece of parchment. After that, we drove straight to the airport, and Grandpa saw us safely on the plane. When we took off, my parents breathed a sigh of relief. My father told me he had heard about the 8 feet tall before. Years ago, his friend had been liked by her and was never seen again. The boy? His friend. My father said there were other people who had been liked by her and lived to tell about it. They all had to leave Japan and settle down in foreign countries. They were never able to go back to their homeland. She always chooses children as her victim. Children with abs, might I add. They say it's because children are dependent on their parents and family members. This makes them easier to deceive when she poses as their relatives. He said the men in the van were all blood relatives of mine. And that's why they had been sitting all around me and why my father and grandpa had been driving in front and back. It was all done and try to confuse Hachishakusama. 8 feet tall. Oh shit, I turned on my controller. What the hell is wrong with me? It took a while to contact everyone and to get them all together. So that's why I had to be confined in a room all night. He told me that one of the little Jizo statues, the ones that were meant to keep her trapped, had been broken, and that's how she escaped. It gave me chills. I was glad we finally got back home. As all of this happened more than 10 years ago, I haven't seen my grandparents since then. I haven't been able to so much set foot in the country. Afterwards, I would call them every few weeks and talk to them on the phone. Over the years, I tried to convince myself that it was just an urban legend, that everything that happened just came to an elaborate plank. But sometimes I'm not so sure. My grandfather died 2 years ago. When he was sick, he wouldn't allow me to visit him, and he left strict instructions in his will that I wasn't to attend his funeral. It was all very sad. My grandmother called a few days ago. She said she had been diagnosed with cancer. She missed me terribly and wanted to see me one last time before she died. "Are you sure, Grandma?" I asked. "Is it safe?" "It's been 10 years, she said. "All that happened a long time ago. It's all forgotten. You're all grown up now. I'm sure there won't be a problem." But what about if you're tall?" I asked. For a moment there was silence on the other end of the phone. Then I heard a deep masculine voice saying, "Po, po, 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 po." And that's basically the end. So, yeah, I'm thinking of doing more urban legends if you recommend me some. So, be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, help me reach 150 subs. I know we can do it. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace out. Goodbye. La 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 la.